You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Dr. J here. Evan, what's going on?
Not too much. Looking at the clouds. Hopefully these things will break up. I don't want winter to be here yet. It's freaking me out.
I hear you. What's the weather up in Louisville?
Well, it was kind of rainy this morning. I'd say it's like mid-70s now. It's a little bit too cool to be August when we're recording this, so we'll see what's going on.
Nice. Do you live up by the plant that makes all the baseball bats up there?
Yeah, it's
Louisville
downtown.
Sluggers?
Yeah, it's maybe a 15-minute drive from here.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a neat place. It's something worth seeing at least once.
Very cool. Next time I come up to see you, I'll have to check it out.
Sounds good.
So what was your breakfast this morning?
Let's see. I had some chicken. I had a rotisserie chicken that I got last night, and I did that with some broccoli. So literally a dinner for breakfast. And it was amazing, though. I feel good.
Nice. Yeah, I did some coffee, MCT, and grass-fed butter unsalted, all blended up. And I did 4 raw eggs, Rocky style, if you will. They were great.
Did you put them in the blender and then...
Oh, no way. That would destroy the coffee.
No, not in the coffee. No. Like in a cup? Or how? What'd you do? You just open the eggs in a cup and then drank them? Or did you like stir them up? Or...
That's it. Put them right in a coffee mug, 4 in there, and just tip it high and drink it dry. That's it.
That's great.
Yeah, it was good. So feeling good. Again, like these are real easy meals to just kind of stabilize my blood sugar, have a good morning, get me ready so my brain's ready to go. Good fat. So I'm in a real ketogenic type of state, relying on lots of ketones this morning.
Yeah, definitely good for the brain too. Get you not distracted, keep you focused.
Absolutely. And we talked before the show that we decided we were going to talk about common paleo mistakes because we see lots of patients, and one of the main kind of approaches that we're utilizing is a paleo template. And you notice how we didn't say a diet, because diet kind of involves short-term strategy. It's kind of dogmatic. A lot of times it may not be sustainable and such. So we're really looking at a paleo template. So with that template in mind, what's one of the big mistakes you see with a paleo template with some of your patients, Evan?
Oh, gosh. It's the paleo treats. All the almond flour, coconut flour, the paleo pancakes, paleo waffles, paleo bagels, paleo bread. It's like that's still processed, refined carbs. It's still going to be doing the same thing, if not worse, things to your blood sugar, because some of those alternative flours spike your blood sugar even more. So I think that's probably the number one starting place for me.
Now, that makes sense. Now, I look at paleo treats. They should be in your 10 to 20%. So if you're going to be cheating a little bit in your 10 to 20%, that may be a better treat for you than going and having gluten or having a pizza with cheese and a whole bunch of flour in there. So again, depending on how sick you are, some of my severe autoimmune patients where they're out for a couple of days or they have crazy symptoms, that treat may not be worth it. So when you're doing a treat, you got to figure out, like what's your kryptonite? And if your kryptonite like puts you on your knees for a couple days and really affects your mood and how you perform, you may want to just think about bypassing a treat like that. But for myself, my 10 to 20%, I will have like, some coconut macaroons with some almond flour in there, but that's in my 10 to 20%. It's maybe 2 to 3 times a week. Typically it's after I've eaten a meal, so my blood sugar's already stabilized, so I'm not creating a blood sugar roller coaster, and I've already eaten some really good meals that day. We just got to make sure it's not part of a staple. We don't want to say, well, hey, I'm on this paleo kick, so this is going to be part of my diet, and it should not be part of the kind of the core part of your diet.
Yeah, I like how you said your blood sugar would be stabilized first, because what I've seen when I'm looking at food journals is that people will discount a paleo treat as a meal. Like they'll get this sugar craving, or they'll get this high from the compounds in dark chocolate, say, for example. So they'll just go nosh on dark chocolate and count that as a snack, but there's nothing else really there to support that blood sugar. And then, I've even done that to myself, where now my blood sugar is crashing and I feel worse than I ever did.
Absolutely. So like some of the things, like not all treats are created equal, right? So I like the Hail Mary tarts. Those are my fave.
Oh my gosh.
I like them. But again, if you look at them, right, the chocolate one has, I think, 10 grams of carbs or sugar in it versus I think the lemon or the lime or the vanilla one has 28. So just by looking at them, there's a variation of like 2 to 3 times of sugar depending on what flavor you choose. So sometimes the flavors matter because you can get 2 to 3 times the amount of sugar. Also chocolate, for instance, I do like the 90% dark chocolate, GMO free, organic, all that good stuff, gluten free. But if you did the 70%, you get twice, maybe even 3 times the amount of sugar. So you have to look at it from the perspective of, how much sugar are you getting? And is there a treat that you could cut down the amount of sugar 60 or 70%? That may be a better option for you.
Yeah, the miracle tarts, those are my favorite treats. Oh,
I heart them.
The almond butter one's the greatest one.
Absolutely.
It's the raw almond butter inside. If people haven't checked them out, check them out. They're at several different grocery stores. They're all over Texas because they're out of Dallas.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they are, huh? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love them. But some other treats that I'll do is I'll whip up some organic pasture-fed cream, and I'll just have that whipped up, maybe add 1 drop of stevia in it and have it with some nice organic blueberries. That's a real nice treat. Or I'll do some of it's really good. And I'll do the coconut ice cream, the one with stevia. It's got the blue top on it, not the one with agave. So it's only got a couple grams of sugar, and we'll do that sometimes with some good organic fruit on top. Those can be nice treats that aren't going to derail your blood sugar and just give you a whole bunch of extra sugar that may cause you to go to fat.
Yep.
So that sugar just pumps the insulin up, which just gets driven into your triglycerides and your fat cells.
And you can't burn fat when that insulin's high. So if you're constantly doing these paleo snacks throughout the day, or if it's a habit, then that could explain why you're quote unquote doing paleo and nothing's changing. That may be the little hidden piece of the puzzle you forgot to take a closer look at.
Yeah. So like for my dark chocolate, I do the endangered species brand with the cougar on it, the 88%. And I'll do the Lindt 90%. Those are some good chocolate bars that I'll do. And I'll do like 2 or 3 rows, maybe a couple nights a week. But
that's nice of you, saving the lemur or the leopard.
Yes.
I know.
I know.
Cool company.
I know. I wish they had more of them at the 88% because a lot of the ones that have the flavors have just the more sugar in it.
Yep. It's in like the 50s. I've seen those with the orange and the others. I don't even know if I would like that one, but yeah.
What are some treats that you like?
Well, that miracle tart's got to be number one.
Yeah.
Another treat that's not even really a treat, some people may laugh at it, is just I'll go to Whole Foods and just buy a big bag of organic walnuts, and I'll just throw those in a bowl, and I'll take just a little bit of spring water, just enough to get some stuff to stick to it, and I'll kind of mist that onto, a small bowl of walnuts, and then I'll just take some organic cinnamon powder and just sprinkle that over the walnuts. And I mean, just a handful of those is an incredible snack, and I feel so satiated. My blood sugar feels great after. I don't feel fatigued or like I'm going to kill somebody if I don't eat. That's kind of my go-to nut, if you will. Pistachios are another one of my favorites too, and I get them with the shells on, so they're actually doing the work. If I got the pistachios that were already de-shelled, I think I would just eat the whole bag.
Oh, that makes sense. I also am a big fan of pork rinds. Pork rinds are great. It's just basically pig skin that's fried up. But I use the one by U.S. Wellness Meats, and they're great because they all come from pasture-fed pigs and just really good quality. And they use good fats to cook them in, and they're like potato chips. I get the barbecue ones and the salt and pepper ones, and there's just no junk in them, and it feels like you're having potato chips.
I ought to try them. I've seen those online. I've just never went through the process of ordering them.
Love it. Plus, you're getting pig skin, so there's a lot of nutrients in the skin that are actually going to feed and help your skin too.
Right. That's cool. Maybe that explains why your face is acne-free.
Well, that and also having a good, clean gut.
That's true.
Yeah, the gut's the mirror of the skin, or the skin's a mirror of the gut, right? If you have skin that's all messy, there's probably some gut stuff going on that's not too good.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, one more thing I wanted to add in there. Let's see here. We talked about the pork rinds. So almond butter can be okay. You just got to figure out, if you can handle it or not. I will do some potato chips every now and then. I'll get the Boulder Canyon ones that are cooked in a really good quality fat. Typically, I'll do like the coconut oil or sometimes the avocado oil with a little bit of sea salt. And we'll do that with guacamole. Just because the guacamole's got some good fat in there, and it will help stabilize the blood sugar. And I try to have a meal first. So I try to eat my meal, whatever it is, and then do that afterwards. That way my blood sugar is going to be a little bit more stable and won't go on a roller coaster ride with the extra bit of carbs.
It does take a little bit of dedication to do that, not just run and just grab the chips in a pinch because you're hungry.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're making that distinction there.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's not just about what you eat, it's how you eat it and when you eat it and what you eat it with. So, right, potato chips by itself can be more derailing. You add in the avocado or the guacamole, boom, now you have a good fat to stabilize the blood sugar, and then you time it after your meal. It's like win, win, win.
Yep.
And I'll even just cook up some grass-fed meat, and I'll even just scoop up some of the grass-fed meat with a potato chip.
That sounds good. Like ground?
Just ground up, and I'll just scoop it up and have that, and you're getting some fats and proteins along with it, so your blood sugar is just going to be just in a better place.
Mm-hmm.
So what's number 2, Evan? What's the second biggest paleo mistake you see?
Oh, gosh. I would say the technology, man. A lot of the paleo crowd are super hooked in because they're all listening to podcasts like they are right now. So they're always having something on. And I think I was probably one of the first people to talk about the blue light issue on my podcast back when I had the guy from Low Blue Lights on. He's in his late 80s. This guy's pushing 90 years old, and
wow.
He used to work at GE. Anyway, he shed a lot of light on the link between blue light at nighttime and cancer, and talked about these studies where third shift nurses had higher breast cancer incidence, thing like that. So I think people are still ignoring the importance of turning down the lights at nighttime, whether it's in your home or your computer screen or your cell phone, not using any apps that take away the blue. I think that's a big issue because a lot of people have sleep issues, whether it's staying asleep or falling asleep, one of the two. I think some of that, not all, but some of that is rooted in our overuse of technology, and a lot of people are just too tuned in and they don't want to shut off. And for me, I have to be diligent, turning off the Wi-Fi, turning off the computer, getting out in nature as much as possible during both the work week and the weekend to try to de-stress from all that EMF. I mean, I've measured large milligauss readings from my laptop keyboard. So, I mean, I've even felt some weird tingly stuff in my hands before when I'm using my computer for too long. So sometimes I'll switch over to like an external keyboard, for example, that's like a USB with like a little Logitech one. And that's kind of helped mitigate some of that. But I'm ranting here or going off on a tangent. But in a nutshell, the technology issue is pretty big.
Yeah, and because the technology too, people are also getting access to a lot of different information.
Yes.
So I get my patients coming in and listen to lots of different podcasts and read lots of different blogs, which is great. It's just really important that when you listen to things, you always have to use kind of reason and evidence and logic to make sense of things, because a lot of people are out there trying to make their name, and they're trying to be very kind of niche-y, if you will, about trying to say something that's controversial so they can have people look at them more. And that's good and bad if it's true, because it's true, that's great. It'd be controversial to talk about this stuff. It still is now, but 10 years ago, it'd be super controversial because people were all low fat 10, 20 years ago. So talking about eating fat would have been like, man, it's like totally like the devil. But today it's a little more accepted even though it's still not the mainstream, because look at the food pyramid, right? The foundation is still grains, but people have, different perceptions because they're getting so much information and it becomes paralyzing because what do you believe? So you got to use reason and evidence. You got to test it. You got to figure out what works. Again, there's not going to be one absolute. I think there's going to be certain core things that run true. Like some people may be able to tolerate grains better than others, but again, I think my opinion based on gluten sensitivity, people will always do better substituting grains for a healthier, more anti-inflammatory meal, for instance, right? So we got to kind of figure out what those absolutes are and not get too confused by all the information that's out there. And don't get paralyzed by the research, because a lot of the research says things on both sides of the fence. So you got to be careful and step away from the research because it can be really confusing. So I'm a big fan of just testing things, right? Hear something, test it, see if it works for you, see if you see an improvement in how you look, feel, and perform, and then maybe add it to your routine. So don't get overwhelmed. Don't get, paralyzed by all the extra info coming in.
I agree. That's a great point. I just went over to a patient's house I told you about on last Friday, and she said, well, Evan, I heard this from this podcast, and I heard this from this podcast, and I read this out of this book, and they have this whole list of stuff that they want to go over where they've heard from other people that they should be doing it. So whether it's eating less vegetables, eating more vegetables, doing intermittent fasting, doing this, doing that, substituting this for that. And I just had to tell the lady, I said, look, you need to calm down. I said, feel how high your energy is vibrating now. You're like freaking out. I said, let's just relax, let's slow down, and let's focus on the basics and the foundations here. I said, I promise all these little tweaks that people are selling to you in these programs, ooh, this is the intermittent fasting detox cleanse, it's like, you don't need that right now. Let's just, your blood sugar's off the charts. Right. Let's start there. Oh, okay, Evan. And it's like a sigh of relief for them that they don't have to freak out and have to look at every single 1,000th of a millimeter variable.
I agree. And also, people listening to other people's podcasts, which is great, but a lot of these people, they aren't clinicians. They aren't like doing stuff. So it's nice to talk about things that are hypothetical, but things that are clinical, meaning things that practitioners and doctors are actually doing with their patients, is going to have 10 times more value to me than things that are hypothetical.
Yeah, if you think about it, man, now that you mention that, I think what you and I are doing is very rare among all the other shows. The other shows now, which this isn't to toot our own horns, but it's serious that I didn't really look at it with that lens that you just mentioned, but 99% of the other shows out there are people that maybe used to help people one-on-one, and now they're got out of the game and they just want to sell programs, or they want to sell books or products or digital downloads or something because, maybe they got overwhelmed, maybe they got burnt out or something. So now everything's turning into a combination of theory and marketing, and people are getting even more confused because they're not getting the clinical evidence and the clinical information of what's happening in our doors, so to speak.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And I think you got to always look at information, whether it's a research article, and if you hear something about whatever's out there, you got to try it. You got to see how you feel, see how it works for you, and then, take it or leave it. But always kind of know what you're listening to and know if it's coming from a clinical foundation or if it's coming from a theoretical foundation.
Right. Yeah. So that was a big number 2, but I think we gave a good outline of it. Which one for you? I think I'm spent right now.
Well, I think number 3, in the paleo sphere, there's a couple of issues that happen with some of my patients that are coming in on a paleo diet. There are 2. I'm going to kind of combine part 3 into 2 parts. Number 1, my biggest concern is when people talk about healthy lean meats. That drives me nuts, because if you read Weston A. Price, if you read some of the anthropological data, a lot of these tribes and a lot of societies, the muscle meats weren't regarded as the highest quality meats. It was more of the organ meats, or the fattier cuts of meats had more of the nutrient density in there, and they were more revered. Like, for instance, certain glandular meats were fed to females in the fertile season, so they would have higher levels of fertility so they could get pregnant and produce, higher quality offspring. So there was this reverence to glandulars. There was this reverence to the, bone broth and bones and marrow and just fattier cuts of meat being very important, and that the muscle meat was like, hey, this is kind of like the stuff we feed the animals, so to speak. It's almost like the scraps. And today it's the opposite, right? Like go on US Wellness Meats, I look at their pet food blend and it's got like kidneys and heart in there and liver. Well, everything's being promoted the 90+% lean meat. It's like, we got to flip that switch. And also, just a funny note, I actually bought some of their pet food and actually eat some of their pet food. And it's actually human grade. It's spillover. And they just take all the glandulars and they just grind it up and they sell it as pet food. And I asked them, I said, is there any problem with the pet food? Like, no, we just take the glandulars and we just grind them up and we just market it as pet food because people don't want it. But it's the same quality. It comes from the same animal, the same grass-fed, super clean animal. There's no difference in quality. It's human grade. They just market it as pet food because us humans don't want to touch the glandulars.
Wow. That's amazing. I guess it is a little bit scary for some people because it's not perfectly packaged with a label and the ingredient list. And it's like, whoa, what is this living thing? It's alive. It's a lot more alive than some of the other stuff that comes packaged and frozen and sealed and beautifully labeled and things like that.
Yeah. So the first step people can do is just instead of chicken breast, get chicken thighs. Keep the skin on there. Right? Get the grass-fed meat, get the 75 or 80%. Keep the fat in there. Take the fat and like just put it on your vegetables. It's kind of like a topping. That's a really good step. Take an ounce or two of liver and just like mix it in with your ground up grass-fed meat. You won't even know it's there, but you'll get that extra bit of vitamin A and B12.
So what do you recommend? If you get like a strip steak, like a grass-fed strip steak, and you have that little strip of fat that goes along the side of it, when people talk about fat, is that something you would cook and eat? What do you do with that type of harder fatty tissue?
Well, it depends, right? Like if we're talking like, I do a lot of ribeyes or Delmonicos and I'll eat that fat up. I'll totally eat it and it's great. But I try to make sure it's grass fed because a lot of toxins get stored in the fat of these animals. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that if we're eating the good quality fat, that we're not getting fat that's going to have a whole bunch of toxins stored in it. So making sure it's organic, grass-fed, all that. I'm still notorious, though. I go out to a really good steakhouse. I get it may be grain finished, so to speak, and I'll still eat some of the fat, but 90, because of the flavor, because of the marbling and it's dry aged, but 90% of the time we got about 30 pounds of ribeyes in our fridge that are all grass-fed. I got 50 pounds of ground beef in my fridge that's all grass-fed, 78%. So we'll do those majority of the time. And we'll do the rotisserie chickens with the skin on, and we'll eat the thighs, we'll eat the leg, we'll, eat the skin. So we really try to eat the fattier cuts, the good cuts, and try to make sure the quality's there because that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, the skin is amazing. That rotisserie chicken I was talking about, the skin, the way the seasonings kind of caramelize on there while it's cooking. Oh, gosh. And I haven't eaten lunch yet, so it sounds even better right now.
I know, I'm getting hungry. And I'd say the part two on that would be just eating too low calorie.
Yeah, totally.
People, like they have a diet that's crap, right? They have this grain-based, very inflammatory diet, and they switch over. But because they aren't making an equal substitute, because so much of their diet was just crap calories, they haven't substituted enough of those calories for healthier foods. So they eventually get hungry. So I tell patients, if you're eating food and you're not feeling full within 10 minutes after that food, and within 4 to 5 hours you're starving, you're just not eating enough of that food, and or your digestive system just really isn't working well because you weren't used to that much protein and fat, and now you got to just up the HCl and enzymes to be able to break down that protein and fat, and you may even want to look a little deeper at maybe an infection going on that's driving some of that impaired digestion.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the paleo diet, or the template, whatever you want to call it, it's pretty low carb in reality. You could eat a huge handful of broccoli, and that may only be 50, 60 calories.
Right. And one thing, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, the thing with a paleo template, it can be high carb or low carb. And it can even be low fat too. I have some patients off the bat, before we're supporting their gut because we're waiting for a stool test to get done, and we can't add digestive support because it will cause the stool test to be off a little bit. We'll actually do a low-fat paleo, not because low fat's good, but because their gallbladder's screwed up and that's all they can handle right now. So we'll even do a low-fat paleo. We'll do a high carb. We'll do a low carb. We'll do, we'll mix it up. We'll do a keto paleo. So we can mix it up, and we have that latitude. So when people think paleo is just all meat, It's like, man, you just don't know what you're talking about, because I have some patients that are literally vegetarian or vegan and they're trying to switch over to paleo, and we get them to do I negotiate in egg yolks and a little bit of salmon. So their diet's maybe like 5% like meat. And then the other bit is all healthier carbs that are not going to have all the inflammatory compounds like the legumes or the grains or, some of the other lectin-rich vegetables. So they're doing more of the non-starchy, good clean vegetables. They're doing some of the safer starches. They're doing some of the cleaner fats. So like avocado oil or olive oil, coconut oil, right? Things like that. And they're technically on a paleo diet, even though they're like 95% vegan, but they're eating such a small percent of meat. So you can't tell me that a paleo diet's all meat. It's just people trying to create an emotional attachment because they're trying to appeal to someone's emotion, right? Killing animals bad, therefore paleo diet's bad. It's just like the worst argument ever. It's because they really don't know the diet to begin with, and they don't want to have a conversation based off of reason and logic. But you can have 95% vegetables and good clean carbohydrates that are plant-based and have a little bit of animal protein in there and avoid all the grains and crap, and you can still be on track. And I would say you're still on a paleo template.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The meat thing it's going to be controversial for probably at least another decade or so. I mean, there's so much emotional issues from the factory farm still that we haven't taught people that these animals are happy. They live a happy life. This is what our ancestors ate. This is how they thrived. We don't have to go back 100,000 years to look at those people. We could just go back to even our grandparents who had farms that were eating food closer to the source, and they were much happier. So it's just a retraining process, I guess.
Yeah, and also I always tell my vegan patients, don't kid yourself, right? Don't kid yourself that plants aren't alive. If you read Clive Baxter's book, The Strange World of Plants, they hook up electrodes to plants and they approach the plants with scissors and clippers, and they make the little clipping sound as they approach them, and the electrodes spike. So the plant is somewhat observant that something is happening where you can measure some type of electrical communication from the plant. So we know at some level, maybe we're not in touch with it, but we know we do have technology that can measure the plant is sensing some type of fear when we're approaching it with scissors. So the whole idea that plants aren't alive isn't true. And I come with the philosophy, it takes life to sustain life. So anything that's alive, anything you eat needs to have some level of life to it. And just because it doesn't have a baby and a face and isn't cute and furry doesn't mean it's not alive. So just that's one little step out there. I know that's kind of stretching everyone's mind to wrap their head around it, but there's scientific data showing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've also seen something similar to where when what do you call it? I can't think of it now. The device that they use to basically eat up all the plants and cut them up.
Yeah.
Starts with a C. I can't think of it right now. Not compactor.
Okay.
Anyway, somebody's yelling at me right now of what it is. Anyway, it's like a harvester. We'll just use the word harvester instead. As they're coming through and they're harvesting the field, the other plants they've been shown to hear that stuff coming. They're hearing the sound of that noise of their impending doom. And so they actually start to release more toxins and release more compounds, I don't know whether it's lectins or what it is, but they start releasing some type of compound and a defense mechanism once they hear it. So it's interesting. Now you start thinking, well, am I eating the spinach that came from the last row of the field, or am I eating the spinach that didn't know what was coming? So it's kind of funny how deep you can go with that.
I think the word is combine.
Combine, yes. That's it.
Combine. Same thing with animals too, right? If an animal, I don't want to get too graphic here with everyone, but if an animal can see it's, let's say there's a big slaughter line and the animals can see it coming, they produce a ton of adrenaline, and that can cause the meat to actually putrefy and rot faster, potentially increase parasites in the meat. So ideally, if meat is if an animal is properly killed, they don't see it coming. It's just like they had one bad day and they didn't even see it coming, so there wasn't even an opportunity for the stress response to kick in because it just happened instantly.
Right, as opposed to if they were stored in a normal factory farm, their whole life is revolved around being miserable with high cortisol and high adrenaline and stress, and we're eating all that. So I think part of that plays into why society's really stressed and angry. And I mean, there's just so much stuff inside of them. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. And I just want to wrap people's head around it. It takes life to sustain life. there's data showing that plants are alive. And it makes sense too, because look, they grow. I mean, you got the Mozart effect. You play music, plants grow in certain directions. They grow towards the light. You give plants pesticides and chemicals, or, they grow and respond differently to nutrients. We know that. So it makes sense. So the argument of, well, we got to avoid meat because meat's alive and animals aren't, well, it doesn't really ring true when you really look at the data. Plants are alive too.
Yep.
So anything else you want to add, Evan? I think just kind of summarizing, be careful of the paleo treats. The sicker you are, you may want to avoid them. And if you are eating them, choose the ones that have the least amount of sugar, the least amount of damaging stuff in there. And again, maybe 1% of the time you could really have a full out cheat, but you got to be careful depending on how gluten sensitive and how sick you are. Number 2, we talked about information overload. Make sure information kind of has logic and reason behind it and some clinical application, not just theoretical research. And number 3, see, what was number 3? There was a couple of parts to it. I think the low fat aspect, making sure we eat fuller fat meats, and then also just making sure we have enough calories, that when we replace our foods, that we're choosing making sure we have enough calories in the healthy foods that we're eating, and we're eating enough to begin with. And if for some reason we're not getting hungry and we're having issues, look to the digestion, look to the gut for a deeper reason, deeper underlying cause why.
Yeah, great. And I would add lastly to that, make sure that you're actually moving. If you're not exercising, your metabolic rate's naturally going to be slower. You might not be hungry because this fat that you're adding into your meal could be so satiating that if you're not exercising to actually get some stuff moving, then you may not be hungry. You may eat less. So get moving. That's a whole nother topic, but the benefits are immeasurable.
Great. I think I'm motivated to do a workout after this podcast, Evan.
I need to get my brain going. I feel like I'm a little bit sluggish today, and you're killing it. It must have been the coffee that you had.
Yeah, I think all the fat too. I'm running off of ketones this morning, man.
Right.
All right, bud. Hey, great chatting. Hope everyone enjoyed the podcast, and feel free and write in. Again, our last podcast was done off of a viewer email. So if you guys want some topics covered, let us know. We're here to serve you guys.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Evan.
Thanks, man. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com.